Welcome to the Viking Age podcast. It's the official podcast of thevikingage.com. My name is Chris Schad. I write for the Viking Age as well as Bring Me the News, Zone Coverage, and the Brookings Register. My co-host is Adam Patrick, the managing editor of thevikingage.com. And we do this every Monday with a late week episode right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, don't forget to rate, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we can spread the word to the masses. Adam, good to have you back. Glad to see you got back from the DR. We're just going to dive right into the topic that everyone wants to talk about. CM Punk, Randy Orton returning at Survivor Series. Your reaction. No, I am just kidding. But, I mean, if you do have a reaction, go ahead, because it's better than talking about the Vikings game because, holy shit, that was bad last night.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'll just leave it at that. I'm excited about that. As for the Vikings, excitement level is not as high as it was maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. CM Punk's Chicago Bears laid a number on the Vikings last night because
and Seth Rollins, Chicago Bears.
Yes, Seth Rollins, and they're both going to fight. Maybe that's the common ground that they should just have. Like, hey, you see Justin Fields last night? Oh, yeah. Well, he looked like dog shit, but hey, they won.
Yeah.
Actually, Bears fans are probably mad they won because, like, they don't care about this year. They care about, where are our draft picks? They were 1-5 coming into the game, I think. Now they're like 1 I don't know if they dropped.
4-8, I think.
So they're at 4-8.
Yeah. But
or their record is 4-8, but I'm saying draft pick wise.
Well, they have the Panthers pick too. So
yes.
They can afford to win games, unlike some other teams, if they want a higher draft position, because the Panthers are terrible.
Yeah. They are 1-4 right now. Their draft picks.
Okay. Yeah.
So top 5 is Chicago, Arizona, New England, Chicago, and then Washington.
And if anyone watched last night's game, first off, sorry, but if you watched Justin Fields, the Bears need to draft a quarterback. They cannot bring Justin Fields back on an extension or anything, and be like, oh well, the new coach will figure it. No, just get a new quarterback, move on. You tried, it didn't work. I'm not so sure if Justin Fields' faults in Chicago are entirely his fault, because the play calling last night was very odd. Last night, every other play was a screen, and he didn't really run a lot either. So, but yeah, they need to move on. And then the Vikings have their own quarterback situation currently and in the future. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're going to get to all of that. One more thing before we dive into this game. As you can see, I have good reason for just kind of pushing this game a little bit back because deep down, I barely want to talk to it, even though I have some things off of my chest. Like last night was just it was a kick in the gut.
Yeah, it was.
Carolina. Wow. I don't know if anybody saw it this morning, but David Tepper, who is trying to be Jerry Jones over in Carolina, he said the Panthers actually wanted to do some kind of 3-way trade and draft CJ Stroud. But we like Bryce Young, but we really wanted CJ Stroud. We like Bryce Young though. Don't worry about it. It's like the dynasty league when you have the number 1 overall pick and you're just like, yeah, I should really take the guy I like, but everybody says I should take this guy, and you read too many magazines. Next thing you know, you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Jonathan Taylor, and you've made a great mistake.
It's funny It's funny that he said that because he kind of made it seem like it wasn't really his choice to go with Bryce Young when the word has been the whole time that he wanted Bryce Young and everyone else wanted CJ Stroud. So it's kind of funny how he's trying to, I guess, spin that, but he got rid of the people who might have opposed that, which is Frank Reich, Josh McCown, Dude Staley. All those guys were fired, which is going to be great for Bryce Young's development for the rest of the year. So we're just doing great things for their team over there. Yeah, you look at a team like that, and you just feel really good about the Vikings, even just their coaching situation, and it's just more confirmation that the Vikings got it right with Kevin O'Connell. As much as some people might be kind of annoyed with him after last night and the last week's game, he was still the right choice if you look at what was available at the time and how things have gone since then, because he's been one of the best coaches of all the people that were hired since 2022. So I still think the Vikings made the right call.
Yeah, let's dive right into that loss last night. Vikings lose 12-10. They take a late lead on a TJ Hawkinson touchdown from Josh Dobbs. Justin Fields fumbles the ball. Kevin O'Connell goes PJ Fleck mode on the final drive, and then Justin Fields stops throwing screens and gets a big gainer to DJ Moore, which sets up the game-winning field goal by Cairo Santos. Very meta take here. What is your biggest takeaway from Monday's game?
My biggest takeaway is that the Vikings, if they're going to move forward with Josh Dobbs or even Jaren Hall, Kevin O'Connell needs to do a better job of catering his playbook more to that player's skill set instead of just, which it seemed like he was doing in the beginning when Josh Dobbs was playing, like letting him run around and kind of play kind of backyard football. And I think as the weeks have progressed, and he's probably added more to Josh Dobbs' plate in terms of the playbook. It seems like his mobility and athleticism has kind of gone to the backside, I guess, because I rewatched the game a little bit this morning, and a lot of the plays were just straight up, just snap the ball, straight drop back, not even a little RPO to even just keep the defense on their toes. Like, even that, you don't even have to like hand it off or run the quarterback, just the little fake handoff. They didn't do any of that. They were very minimal rollouts. Like, you have this quarterback that can move around in the pocket. You don't need to wait for a blitz to come for him to scramble. You can create those situations on your own. It just seems like the last 2 weeks the Vikings have kind of gotten away from that. Now, on the flip side, could the defenses that they were playing game plan better to take away that element of the Vikings? Yes, but at the same time, still there's not even like a fake RPO or anything like that. There's no effort. Even when the game was like 3-0 throughout the first half, or even 6-3, it seemed like Kevin O'Connell kind of abandoned the run game, and that was kind of one of the things that was kind of doing well. And when your quarterback is thrown for 2 interceptions already, 2 or 3, by that point, you would think that running the ball is something that would help you more and take kind of a little bit of the pressure off of him. But they kept going, back to the pass, and Josh Dobbs being like the focal point of your offense is probably not what you want. I know he's had some moments, but you don't really want to put the offense on his back and depend on him to make every play, because he's not that kind of guy. So I just think the Vikings, Kevin O'Connell specifically, just needs to, go back to the drawing board and kind of tailor his offense to the player that he has, and maybe just make it a little bit more simpler. I know he's got some schemes that are pretty complex, and that was fine with Kirk Cousins, who was there learning the playbook for over 2 years. But Josh Dobbs is just in there. Jaren Hall's a rookie. Nick Mullins probably knows it pretty well, but how much can he do back there? He's not very mobile. He can run the offense, but how well? And don't put Sean Mannion anywhere near the field, please. So yeah, I just think the Vikings need just because last night, and we talked last night how it seemed like the game plan might have been mailed in, and I could see that. They just want to get through the game, get through without any injuries, which I think they did for the most part, and get into the bye and get ready, because they have a late bye. Week 13? It's pretty late.
Yeah.
Get into the bye, get some rest, regroup, and then go play the Raiders and their other 4 games. So I feel like Kevin O'Connell can make the right adjustments. He's done it in the past. But there's some certain things that keep popping up, late game issues with him, play calling, abandoning the run game, just things that he needs to work on moving forward. If the Vikings, I don't think the division seems like it's out of the picture now that after yesterday's loss. You never know still, but they don't really do they really want to back into the playoffs and then just be sent home by like the Niners or the Lions? I don't think they want to do that. But they got a lot to work on. Defensive wise, they look great. which has been the annoying part because they've kind of wasted these last 2 weeks of really great performances from the defense. They held the Bears to 12 points. I know the Bears aren't this lethal offense, but anytime you hold a team to 12 points, you should win that game. So, yeah, the defense looks great. Special teams looks pretty good. Ryan Wright, the punter, I don't know if he's going to be back next year. He's had a pretty rough year. But yeah, bunch to work on. Mostly Kevin O'Connell just fixing things up and just I don't know what they did against Atlanta, and who else did Josh Dobbs play?
New Orleans.
The
first half against New Orleans was great. The second half wasn't too great.
But... Yeah, and so maybe try and get back to some of that stuff. It seems like I don't know. They were trying to do too much, or Josh Dobbs trying to do too much last night, and he threw 4 interceptions. So obviously it didn't work. So plenty to work on in the bye. My
apologies here if I stumble a little bit. I got the last part of the cold. So
that time of year.
Yeah, you just got like you feel fine, but you got all that snot and that phlegm built up. And sorry if anybody's eating lunch. We are broadcasting here at 12:53 Central Time. So sorry for that graphic discussion, but here's my biggest takeaway. And I think you and I were texting back and forth last night and talking about this. Mm-hmm. Kevin O'Connell got outcoached by Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus, who has been 6-22 before last night as the head coach of the Chicago Bears, who was 0-9 against the NFC North coming into last night's game. Yep. I don't think he had beaten a winning team as head coach of the Bears either, which is another one. But you know what? The Vikings, they are the ultimate charity. And we really should have saw this coming because the Lions lost on Thanksgiving, which means the Vikings can't make up. I cannot remember the last time the Vikings were chasing a team and actually made up ground on them. Dating all the way back to 2017, just we need to chase the Eagles for home field advantage. Yeah. Oh, we can't catch them. Next thing you know, we're getting our ass kicked on and off the field at Lincoln Financial Field in the NFC Championship game. But, the first thing with me, and you mentioned it a little bit, was Kevin O'Connell's overall game plan. The Vikings only ran the ball 17 times against the Bears. Alexander Mattison had 10 of those carries for 52 yards. Pretty good. That's a pretty good clip. Mm-hmm. Ty Chandler, meanwhile, 4 carries for 8 yards. Ty Chandler stands, raise up. There's your guy right there. The Vikings have they have this 1-2 punch. They have this 1-2 punch, and the Ty Chandler, he's the guy. Have you seen him? He looks so much better than Madison. Yeah, looked great last night. Great job. Josh Dobbs also ran the ball twice.
Yep.
So basically Kevin O'Connell went in there and said, I'm going to make and I don't know, all head coaches have an ego in the NFL. Everybody has an ego, even if they don't say they do. They have pride and whatever. I don't know if Kevin O'Connell looked at Josh Dobbs and says, this is my prize project. I am going to turn him into a legitimate passer because the others couldn't or whatever. But he just wanted to have Josh Dobbs stand back there and sling it, which is not his game. He had after last night, he has a 4.3% turnover-worthy play rate. That's 8th among qualifying quarterbacks this season. So right up there with Will Levis, Daniel Jones,
PJ
some
Walker.
Of the other, cesspool quarterback challenge quarterbacks you have out there. And, we talk about Jordan Rodriguez's podcast series, the Play Callers, where anyone who's crossed swords with Sean McVay in Vegas, was on that podcast talking about playing to their team's strengths. Kevin O'Connell didn't play to anyone's strength last night. He just, this was when you're in college and you're about to go home for Thanksgiving break and you're just I don't really want to go to college. You just stay home and watch college the Maui Invitational or something. That's what Kevin O'Connell's game plan was. It was nobody wanted to be there. And even the fans were just kind of sitting there what the hell? What are we even doing here? The other thing that drove me insane was the 4th down decisions. The first drive of the second half was a grown man getting his ass kicked online by an 8-year-old in Madden. Because it was just 4th and 7 at their own 49-yard line. And you're just so mad with how the game is going. You're fuck it. I'm going to go for it. It's 4th and 17. I'm just going to run 4 verts and hopefully somebody gets open or I can run for 17 yards. That was the energy that Kevin O'Connell had. And like usually in those situations, 5 yards, unless the game's on the line or something, I'm punting the ball. Like that is one of the situations where I say punt it away. The final drive, that is a whole nother discussion for me. You have Alexander Madison run up the middle for no gain. You have Alexander Madison run to the right for 1 yard, which Brian O'Neill, holy shit, man, he got his ass handed to him last night by Montez Sweat. Like there was nothing he could do right. It was a bad game for him. Even the great players have them, but not great. And then you throw a screen pass to Brandon Powell, and then you punt the ball away. Now, to O'Connell's credit, Alexander Madison entered that drive with 6.1 yards per carry. So you would think at that point, hey, our running game's doing enough. Like he probably should have used it more earlier in the game. Yeah. But hey, we're doing enough. Let's just give the ball to Alexander Madison. He can get 3 or 4 yards. We can stay on schedule and we can get the first down to end the game. Also, Josh Dobbs had thrown 4 interceptions. So throwing it downfield, it's not easy to see why, or it's not hard to see why Kevin O'Connell may have been gun shy in that moment. But
were you surprised to see him still in the game on that? Well, he had that scoring drive, but before that, like, were you surprised after the 4th interception? Were you surprised to see him back out there?
I was, because they said Nick Mullins was warming up side by side with him. Yeah. So, and then you punt the ball back to Chicago and the game is over. So, I'm not sitting here screaming, fire Kevin O'Connell. Like he's just been outcoached the last 2 games. He got outcoached against Sean Payton in Denver. Again, that conservative, even going back to the Saints game in the second half, he had those weird play calls where he was just kind of like nervous to do anything creative. Mm-hmm. And, maybe the bye week will serve as some self-scouting to kind of get that offense jump started. And obviously getting Justin Jefferson back will help if he does come back, obviously. I mean, I pin a lot of this loss on the Bears being bad and Kevin O'Connell just not having a great day.
Well, here's a sidebar, because the Bears, they almost beat the Lions. Mm-hmm. And they did a pretty good number on Jared Goff too. I think they picked him off 3 times.
Right.
2 or 3 times. So do the Bears maybe have a good defense?
Well, here's what I would counter with,
because they just got Montez Sweat.
How many dumb things did the Bears do last night? Like there were a lot of penalties
on offense. Well, actually on defense
on
too,
both sides. Yeah, yes. Yeah. And they did a lot of things right, because the Bears had the 32nd ranked pass rush coming into the game, and again, Montez Sweat did a number on Brian O'Neill.
Right.
Trying to think, they have somebody, Tremaine Edmonds. Is that it? Like he was free running all game.
Yannick Ngakoue. They've got in there. They've got
Vikings legend Yannick Ngakoue. But
they've got some players, but like their performance last week against the Lions makes me think like maybe their defense at least isn't terrible. Their offense is a whole different story, but like the way that they were able to kind of stifle Jared Goff in Detroit, and then they go into Minnesota and do something similar to Josh Dobbs makes me just wonder, like, are they kind of good? At least on defense. But yeah, so there's a lot of factors that the Vikings have to figure out, what's the problem. Turnovers once again are an issue. Like they can't, like, it seems like in all of their losses, they immediately turn the ball over on their like first or second drive, and you're like, oh, here we go again. And they continue to do it. And then the Vikings don't get a turnover, like they don't force one, or as many as the other team did. So they're losing the turnover battle. And they're just behind the whole time. And Kevin O'Connell is trying to call plays to like climb back in the game, even though it was a 1-score game until the 4th quarter. So it seemed like he kind of felt like there was some urgency with Kevin O'Connell and play calling. Like we got to get this. We got to get. It's like you got a lot of time. Like I know things haven't been going well, but take your time, run some plays that works. We saw Josh Oliver get involved in the past game with Josh Dobbs in a couple of those early games. Where was he last night? He wasn't anywhere to be found. Jordan Addison's kind of gone to the wayside.
Jordan Addison should have had a touchdown, but yeah.
Yeah, they said he lost the ball in the lights, and I'm like, I don't think so. I think it was just a bad throw. And
I don't know if you saw the video too, but did you notice the cheerleaders on the sideline?
I did not see their reaction.
They were going nuts.
I think I was looking at
like it was a big yeah.
I think I was looking at Addison's feet, which like started out of bounds, and then he caught it. And then you got it's like the Alexander Madison show, and then if he's not running well, then they just try and throw it intermediate downfield to one of their receivers when they should be throwing to like TJ Hawkinson, throwing some screens to Ty Chandler. Get Brandon Powell the ball. He had a nice catch yesterday. He's been someone that's been playing well with Josh Dobbs. It just seems like I don't know what their plan was last night. It just seemed like they were just. I don't know. It was a hard game to watch, and if we didn't get paid to watch it, probably wouldn't have watched the whole thing.
We would have been watching Raw to see what Randy Orton and CM Punk would have said.
More of it, yes.
Yes. Instead, I was up till 1 a.m. watching Raw, trying to figure it out. Do you have any positives to take away? I know you mentioned Flores' defense, but was there anything you're kind of like, hey, silver linings?
Yeah, I just go back to the defense. Josh Metellus he's having a great season. He just seems everywhere. Byron Murphy played really well last night. One thing we haven't mentioned is Caleb Murphy's been out. Not Caleb Murphy. Caleb Evans has been out the last 2 games, and I think that's had a pretty big impact. He's been one of their best corners this year. Not that they've been burned by anybody. I guess you could say Cortland Sutton against the Broncos.
And that was just a really good play.
Yeah, he's like just chuck the ball up against when you're covered by a corner who's like 6 inches shorter than you. Yeah, you're gonna want to get that. And then last night the Bears were just throwing screens all game, so like it wasn't like they had to cover downfield except for that one play against DJ Moore to end the game. Brian Flores looked like he was pretty pissed off at himself for letting that happen. But once again, they allowed 12 points. If most teams, if you allow the other team to score 12 points, you're probably going to win. So I don't really blame the defense at all. They held their own. And I expect them to get even better moving forward. I don't know what the status is for Marcus Davenport, but that would be cool if he could come back and maybe make some sort of an impact. Caleb Evans should be back when they return for their bye. Jordan Hicks might even be back. When's he eligible to come back? He got hurt. He got hurt in the Saints game.
So I think 2 more weeks. So he would be able to come back
against
Cincinnati. But that was a pretty serious.
Yeah, he'd be hospitalized and everything.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll be back for like one of the Lions games or something. Even that, like I feel like Ivan Pace has been doing pretty well, playing more snaps in there. Brian Asamoah is nowhere to be found. Anthony Barr, he seems like he's been doing fine. Troy Dye's even made a couple plays. So like their defense, I feel like is fine. But the offense has gotta do some fixins. Even with the offensive line, it seems like they've kind of regressed the last 2 weeks. I don't know if they're fully on the same page as Josh Dobbs or how that's all going, but yeah, there's a lot of question marks on the offensive side of the ball for the Vikings for sure.
And that leads us to our next topic, which is what now for the Vikings. And the biggest one is at quarterback, because Josh Dobbs had a pretty good 2-game stretch there. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But last night, things didn't go too well. Excuse me 1 second.
To say the least.
Once again, I apologize.
Hang in
but
there.
yeah, we'll get there. We're way better than we were at this time last week. So that is a good thing. Josh Dobbs was especially brutal under pressure. Eric J. Thompson, friend of the show, he posted on X that Dobbs was 8 of 14 with a touchdown and 3 interceptions under pressure last night. Is it hard to like tell him, by the way, he can just go to the ground with the sack.
Right? Yeah. Why you gotta
500 mystery box balls are
throwing it straight up in the air is not gonna help anyone. Who are you throwing it to? Like Christian Darrisaw?
And what are you trying to protect? Because it's intentional grounding anyway.
If the refs call it, which they didn't, when Justin Fields did it, but that's a different story. I don't want to complain about the refs because the Vikings played terrible. So
yes,
I'm not blaming the refs for anything last night. I think with Josh Dobbs, I think they've got 2 weeks to figure things out. I think they will keep him as a starter against the Raiders. I would be kind of surprised if they benched him. I think they would like to see if they can try and figure it out, see if they can get things straightened out. They've got 2 weeks to prepare. That should be more than enough time. And then if that doesn't work out, I see a lot of people saying like, put Jaren Hall in. I think we forget that he was the third string before Nick Mullins went down. So I think next up would be Nick Mullins, unless they want to keep him as the backup to like maybe have someone to turn to just in case Jaren Hall didn't work out or Josh Dobbs. But I think Nick Mullins would be the next man up, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but he's the one who knows the offense the best. He's probably someone that Kevin O'Connell feels the most comfortable with. He's got the most NFL experience in terms of playing time out there. So he's like O'Connell seemed kind of hesitant to put Jaren Hall, or even to like commit to him when he really had no other quarterbacks a couple weeks ago. He was like, yeah, we're gonna look at the options, and like their only option was Jaren Hall, and he still was like, maybe. So I'm a little hesitant to see if that happens, but he did mention that Kevin O'Connell last night did mention that Jaren Hall is going to be healthy, or he is healthy now, and Nick Mullins is available. So, but I do think they're going to give Jobs. I just combined both of his
He
names.
was a jobber last night for talking wrestling terms. But yes.
I think they're going to give him one more chance. And after that, because Jefferson's coming back, they probably want to see like if that can make a difference, which I would hope so. And you know what? If you really want to, why don't you just ask Justin Jefferson who he wants? Because he's got he should have a pretty big say on things that go down. But I think Josh Dobbs will get one more chance, and if that doesn't work out, then they'll try somebody else. Because if they're trying to get in the playoffs, they don't really have a lot of room to just mess around and lose a couple games, because they only have 5 games left, and they're right in the thick of things. And the last thing they want to see is the Packers overtake them in the standings and grab that playoff spot. Not that I think that'll happen, because I still don't think the Packers are good. I think what's his name, Jordan Love had a good game.
Jesus Christ, basically.
The Lions defense has been terrible since the bye. So him having a good game against the Lions defense.
But those throws, though, that's what I heard. Those throws.
That one throw that went through like 7 people to get to was it Romeo Dobbs or Doobs or whatever. People were like, "That's so impressive."
I know you're confused. That's just funny. It just sounds funny. Doobs.
Doobs.
What's up, Doobs?
People were like, "That was so impressive." I'm like, "That was so lucky that happened." That's not impressive. He's not Brett Favre out there, just threading the needle. But yeah, I think they give Josh Dobbs one more chance, and if he's not able to get things together, then they'll turn to somebody else. But once again, keep Sean Mannion far, far away from the field. Do not put him on the field.
Just give him a headset. The reason though that he is actually a practice squad coach is if you look at the salaries between a practice squad player and a assistant coach. Yeah. You make a lot more money than just chilling on the.
But it doesn't go on the salary cap.
Yeah,
if you're a coach, so
right?
And I would like to say that the Wilfs have enough money to afford Sean Mannion as a assistant coach, but they already have like
up his
37 coaches on that sideline. So I don't know if they need
assistant to the quality control. Donut Club
assistant water boy. Yeah,
do they still do Donut Club? Or was that like
no. That was
we're done with this.
That was a Sugarman thing.
The donuts were spiked with Toradol or something.
I was trying to find a way to insert that in there. Take your glasses, Toradol, and
just
wash it down with a donut.
shove your painkillers inside the donuts.
Yeah, it's like they're dogs.
Wow.
Welcome to the Viking Age podcast.
Yeah, to answer your question, I don't think either option is really better. I think that,
Right.
If this is like a, choose your fighter situation, I do want to see Jaren Hall more than anybody else because it's interesting. He's intriguing. He's the unknown. We know about Josh Dobbs. He turns the ball over. Yeah. He's a great dual threat guy when the coach allows him to use it. Then Nick Mullins is just kind of a guy, not here's a guy, just a guy. So I don't know. Like none of those guys really inspire me all that much. And then, Jaren Hall's got a little bit of upside. Justin Jefferson, though, just want to talk quickly about this because number 18, in case you have not noticed his absence. Yeah, he's been chilling on the sideline. Fantasy people are mad. I saw some loser on the internet say, well, Dallas Goedert, he came back after 3 weeks with a broken arm. First of all, go Jacks. Second of all, broken arms, a little easier to figure. Oh, it's healed. We'll just put a cast on it or something rather than your hamstring could explode at any moment if you do your little route running things. So stop DMing people about your fantasy team because nobody cares. Like really.
Justin Jefferson, is he back online yet? I don't even know if he.
I don't know. He shut down his DMs because also I swear the Vikings are the only team that makes those public. Never hear about Travis Kelce never has a bad game, but other people I swear I don't hear people oh God, you should see my DMs, man. They're so bad right now.
Oh yeah, wasn't it Madison who was like, yeah,
Madison.
I'm getting
and his was legit because those were racist, and I'm sure Justin Jefferson's getting those nasty messages too, which is another but why are we doing this, guys? But I mean,
looks like his Twitter and his Instagram are still deleted.
Yeah,
deleted.
Probably won't see him until he returns to the field. I think it was the right decision.
It's breaking news. Speak of the devil. Justin Jefferson will be activated from injured reserve today.
Okay.
According to
I think they had to do that though. That was 21 days, right?
3 weeks, yeah.
So Justin Jefferson should be back unless they just decide to make him inactive. I mean, it's more of a formal move than anything.
Right. They can still make him inactive for game day, but he's part of the active roster.
Right. So now
they have to get rid of somebody.
Roster spot.
Sean Mannion.
Thank you, Sean. We'll put you back on the practice squad.
Yeah.
We'll be good here. I think it was the right decision to hold him out last night. I mean, you would have won that game with him in the building. At the very least, it would have helped a little bit, but you're 2 games against Detroit. You got another against Green Bay, who's, revival. Like I said, Jordan Love, you would think Jesus Christ walked out of the cave the way Packer fans are. Pay him $50 million. Go ahead and do it.
Do it.
See what happens.
Please.
Cowards.
Please.
I mean, he's right. His health is more important than your fantasy team or a win over the Chicago Bears. They got to win some games down the stretch. I mean, you should have been able to beat the Chicago Bears without Justin Jefferson last night. That's your fault. You didn't get that done. So,
they beat the Niners without him. They beat the Niners without. They were 5-2. 5-1. 5-2. 5-2 now. Yeah, but they were 5-1 before last night. So there's no reason anyone should have thought that they couldn't have won without him.
And it's one of those injuries too. If there's any question, just if you can afford it, just err on the side of caution.
Yeah, well, you remember when I know Thielen was older when he I think he had a similar injury. Was it 2019? When he went down, I think it was week 4 against the Lions. He went down with a hamstring injury, and he tried to come back. I think they were playing the Chiefs the next week. He tried to come back, and he just further aggravated it and made him sit out even longer. He wasn't really 100% probably until that playoff game against the Saints.
And the ankle. Remember his ankle too?
Yeah.
I think that was 2021 when he came back and then he really messed it up against the Rams and had to go get surgery and stuff.
Yeah. So it's this and at the same time you have to think, are the Vikings going to win the Super Bowl this year? Probably not. Just if we're being honest, probably not. I think the Eagles are very beatable, even though they've only lost one game. I think they're not a powerhouse or anything, but you got to think about the future of Justin Jefferson too, and how you handle this injury too. Like he's gonna remember that in terms of you wanting to rush him out in the field and you making it worse. If this thing became a huge problem, it might have had an impact on him wanting to remain with the Vikings, long term, and he might have, wanted to trade or something like that. So
just have the donut, Justin. Just have the donut.
There's a lot of factors.
There's sprinkles on it. There's purple and yellow, like LSU.
That made me think of what was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, when they have the big
which one? There's like three different trilogies.
Well, the old one, the old school one, like with
the live action ones.
When they had the big monsters or whatever, like
Kevin Nash was one, right? Super Shredder.
Yeah. And they gave him the donuts to eat because they had like this stuff in them that would like make him sleepy. Yeah, there you go. I don't know why I thought of that, but that's what I thought of.
Then they like smashed him open. Like, what is this? And they're like,
no!
Oh shit!
They figured it out. But yeah, like they had to take, they had to approach this with kind of kid gloves, you could say. Because Justin Jefferson, he's still kind of a kid. He's a young guy.
24 years old. I just looked it up.
He's very good, but he's still a young guy, a young lad. But yeah, he's got his whole career ahead of him, hopefully with the Vikings, and there was no reason for the Vikings to jeopardize that. If they were, 8-2, we're in the hunt for like the number 1 seed, I could see him coming back, yesterday or against the Broncos. But I just think there's not enough reward for them to risk, make that kind of risk with a player of his caliber. So, yeah.
I agree. And you mentioned something interesting, which is kind of my final topic as I fight through more stuff in my throat. One moment, please.
Do it.
Don't get a cold. Like, just 10 out of 10. Do not.
I don't.
Recommend.
That's why I live in San Diego.
Yeah, colds don't exist. Bugs don't exist. Your like biggest fear is like tidal waves, right? Like,
yeah. And
global warming.
Fires.
You're just gonna fires. That is fire is pretty bad out there. You mentioned this, and you said the Vikings aren't going to win the Super Bowl, which has me going back and looking at the season so far and going, is this worth it?
Right.
Is this, and I know, again, there are some fans out there who will be like, they just want to sit in front of the TV every Sunday. They want to see the Vikings win every week, and they want to see the Vikings go first. They want to be in the hunt. There's some fans that want that from their team, and that's okay. Like, there is nothing wrong with that. But the Vikings are now 6-6. You're a half game ahead of Green Bay, the Rams, and the Saints for the final playoff spot. And you look at the rest of the schedule, and you're at Vegas. They're only good vibes only under Antonio Pierce, right? Like, that could very well be a loss after the bye.
They just got rid of Marcus Peters, I think.
Yeah. Like they are good vibe. If you are causing anything, you're out. Like that is their vibe right now. Jake Browning may be smart, but he also sucks. So that's probably a win. The Lions. We could talk about like the Lions defense not being as good in the second half of this once they came back from the bye. Dan Campbell could very well be 4-0 against the Vikings because he has outplayed the Vikings in each of those games. And the only reason the Lions lost the 2 here at US Bank Stadium is because Dan Campbell basically self-destructed. Like he went for it on he didn't go for it on 4th down last year when he should have went for it, and the Vikings were able to drive down the field. And then the year before that, Alexander Madison fumbles. Gee, almost foreshadowing. Madison fumbles. They get the game-winning, score, and then they drive down the field, and Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins nearly have a street fight on the sideline after Greg Joseph hits that field goal. 4-0, and the 2 games in Detroit, those have been disasters. Like the Vikings didn't look good in the first half of that 2022 21 game in Detroit before Amon-Ra St. Brown. That was the game.
Game, right?
The sun god became the sun god because he was just kind of okay, and then he had 11 catches for 100 yards in that walk-off TD. And then last year was just a flat out even Jameson Williams got involved. It was his only catch of the season. It was a 50-yard touchdown or whatever. So I mean, those two games, I could see losses there. And then you have Green Bay with Jesus Christ Part 2. Believe in me and you shall have eternal love. Eternal love. It's Jordan. Eternal love. $50 million. What are we doing here? Because if that plays out, you're a 7-10 win team. If you steal a game here, so let's say the Vegas game's a swing game. You steal one of the Lions games. Maybe you beat Green Bay.
So you're
9-8. Ooh. You're 9-8 again.
And you play the Niners in the first round.
Yeah, and you go to San Francisco. They have everybody healthy, and they kick the shit out of you.
And they want to kick your ass because you beat them on Monday night.
Yeah, you have it, and then Kyle Shanahan's on the other side going Kirky, where's Kirky? Yeah. Oh, Brock. Student body right. Yes.
Do you want to guess? Do you want to guess what the Vikings draft pick is right now? The season ends today.
20. I looked it up.
Yeah.
Pick number 20. And I mean, everybody was playing
where they always are.
Yeah, everybody was playing Creed with Josh Dobbs in those first two games, right? Yeah. They should have been playing Kenny Rogers. you know when to hold him, you know when to fold him. I know you're a rock guy, but
I like the Top Gun Kenny Rogers, like that song. I don't remember what song it was, but he had the theme song for Top Gun.
Are you thinking of Kenny Loggins?
Yep, I am definitely thinking of mix my Kenny.
Kenny Rogers did not sing Danger Zone.
You got Kenny G in there, Kenny Lofton, Kenny.
Big Kenny Rogers fan. You pull out some saxophone. What is this? What is it? You play some YouTube clips of the Rangers pitcher, former Twins legend Kenny Rogers, by the way. He kept Johan Santana out of the rotation for a year, which is wild to think about in hindsight. But the football gods told the Vikings to stay down repeatedly. You get off to a 1-4 start, you have a Justin Jefferson injury, Kirk Cousins gets hurt, and you keep forging ahead. Why? Because Scott Stapp, the greatest halftime show in the history of the world on Thanksgiving a couple years ago, not a couple, but 20, but you went all in. Why? Because let's set the culture, Kevin O'Connell's culture. You can build a winning culture when you get your new quarterback next year. Yeah. And if you're telling me you couldn't just plug Jaron Hall in, be let's roll and try and lean into the future and see what you have there.
I think that might have been the plan, though.
Yeah, and I mean, then you go get Josh Dobbs. Dobbs wins a couple of games, and here we are. I mean, the other thing is too. It's well, we can't waste Brian Flores. Brian Flores is going to leave, and he's going to be a head coach. Who cares? Who cares? It sucks. Sometimes that's football. Sometimes it's all about timing. If you take in a year where Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis are the top quarterbacks in the draft, you're an idiot. If you take in a year where, you're not going to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, that was out of the question. Bo Nix would absolutely kill it in this offense right now. He has mobility. He's got a big arm. He can operate from the pocket. That is what I want in a quarterback. People are well, you could get Michael Penix. He could be good. That dude has 10 knee injuries. And that guy he's Hendon Hooker 2.0. He's going to be 24 years old. And he's well, I've had 4 surgeries on my knee, and that's not a red flag.
I'll tell you what, I'm liking the kid from LSU, Jaden Daniels. He's looking pretty good. What's he got? I don't know, 40 touchdowns, something like that this year. So I like him. But what are they? What's the point of all this? I think I came to. We talked about this many times when we were should they tank or not, or should they keep going? And I think we reluctantly probably realized that the Vikings are never going to be a team that tanks. Their ownership they're not going to let them do that. They're always going to want them to just, if they're going to either be mediocre or they're going to be good. They're not going to be a 4-13 team. They're not going to be a 1-win team. That ownership's just not if they had 1 or 2 wins, I still feel like they would have made trades at the trade deadline to try and get better. That's what their ownership wants them to do. They just want them to be competitive because I just think like they
Not
want
just competitive, Adam. Super competitive.
Yeah, they see teams like the Panthers. They see teams, like the Jaguars before this year, or like the Texans who are like typically, or the Lions who are like typically towards the bottom every year, and they want nothing to do with that. They would rather be a 9-8 team. And at the same time, draft pick wise, the Vikings have done pretty well with their draft picks when they've been in the early 20s. They've Justin Jefferson over the years, Percy Harvin, Randy Moss, all those guys were in the 20s. So, when they've had top picks, you could argue that they haven't really done that well when they've had, some of the higher picks, Troy Williamson, Matt Khalil. They traded back. Well, Trey Waynes, wasn't Trey Waynes like 10 or 11?
Yeah, he was 12th or 13th, I believe.
So, like, to me, like, I'm over. It would be great unless you have like one of the top 5 picks. Like, outside of that, I don't really care about draft position because after that there's a bunch of question marks. Anyways, you can trade up or whatever. But I think I've just come to the realization that the Vikings, like, their ownership's not going to let them tank or do anything like that. They would rather be 8-9 or 7-10 than be a 3-win team or a 2-win team. That's how it is, whether we like it or not, and that's just probably how it's going to continue to be until the Wolves sell the team. So,
and you know how this ends, right?
The Vikings face the Lions in the final week with a playoff spot in the line, and they lose.
I'm not even talking about the end of the season. I'm not even talking about the end of the season. I'm talking about next March, because during the game last night, Joe Buck mentioned that Kevin O'Connell is desperate to bring back Kirk Cousins. Like, I don't care. If Kirk Cousins comes back, I'm cool with it. I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hear we're desperate. How much money? Kirky, you are our savior. Look at how we fell apart without you. Here's a blank check. What would you like? Because Mike McCartney was sitting at home hearing that comment and going, desperate, huh?
Yeah, dollar signs in his eyes.
We could use, Jordan Love just got $50 million. My quarterback's better than Jordan Love. How about we go 50 mid 50s? Well, you're coming off a tournament. No. You're desperate. Remember, you really want my client. So like, are the Vikings going to do no matter what? Are they going to be like Sonny Weaver Jr., but in free agency, just Kirk Cousins, no matter what? Or are they going to actually sit there and go, hey, we have a roster. We have a lot of young pieces. Let's use that money to go sign a couple of guys. Let's sign Danielle Hunter. Let's sign Justin Jefferson. Let's go add a couple of pieces of its defense so it's a formidable unit. Or are we just going to pay Kirk Cousins $50 million and draft and develop? We're going to go get a whole bunch of picks in day 3 and see if they pan out.
What's your limit for Cousins? Like 35?
35 sounds about right. Yeah.
He's probably going to want 40. Because
he should want 40.
He should.
Look,
he was playing well when he.
I'm walking in there with the Daniel Jones contract. That guy's getting $40 million.
You better walk in there with Ed
Donatell's ass twice. Like Jesus, and he didn't do anything, and his knee exploded, which isn't his fault. But I mean, the Giants, this time last year, Brian Daboll was the greatest thing ever, and Daniel Jones was great, and now it's
they just beat the Patriots with Tommy DeVito.
Tommy,
hey,
is he in that NXT tag team?
Yeah,
Guidos or whatever.
They're not called that anymore.
I don't know. This team can't stop doing the Jeff Fisher thing, and I just, when you're in the position where you're 6-4, you're riding that 5-game winning streak, you go for it. You obviously need to go for it at that point. But now that you're 6-6, and in hindsight's 2020, you kind of look ahead and you're going, are we doing the same thing here? And if we are, how do you break the cycle? Because like I said, I think it ends with a Kirk Cousins extension for more than he should get paid for.
Yeah, and I think it depends too. There's going to be other, if he hits free agency, I think other teams are going to definitely be in that bidding process, and they're going to make his price tag go up higher. And that's gonna be up for for the Vikings. Yeah,
It's sad, really. And this isn't anything against Kirk. Like, I want to make
he was
that
playing
perfectly
very well.
clear.
He was playing very well when he got hurt.
And he is, you know, from an ownership standpoint, having Kirk Cousins, who is squeaky clean in like every aspect. You saw the quarterback series. You know, they mentioned it last night about how he goes to that function on his little scooter. Yep. I'm surprised he hasn't shown up on the sideline with like a little tricked out scooter. Just got like streamers and like baseball cards in the smoke. Got his little bell. Like, come on, guys, let's go.
I think he got his cast off or something. Like,
yeah, he was serving turkeys on crutches for Thanksgiving.
Did you see Joey Bosa sitting in the suite or whatever the other day eating raisin bread?
he looked like a college student, just like chilling, like, I gotta go to class tomorrow. This sucks.
I think Florio had the comment or something that was like, did he bring that, or was that like actually on the menu for the Chargers because they're so cheap? Because that wouldn't surprise anybody.
You guys got some raisin bread.
Yeah, but I think there's gonna be as weird as this sounds, I think there's gonna be a bidding war for Kirk Cousins this offseason. And he's, as a businessman, he's smart to do that. I know he can say all the right things and say he wants to stay in Minnesota forever, blah 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 blah. But if a team comes along and offers him $50 million a year, and the Vikings can only give him $40 million a year at the most, what's he going to take? You know, say it's the Niners. Say the Niners are like, you know, they don't get the Super Bowl again. They're like, you know, Brock Purdy is great and all. We just need someone to just get us over the hump, and we think Kirk Cousins can do that. So like, I think the Vikings are probably going to be outbid for Kirk Cousins, and it's going to be up to Cousins to decide if he's going to have to take less money. I'm not saying like significantly less, like $20 million, but he's going to have to take less money if he wants to stay with the Vikings. And it'll be interesting to see what he does. As for the Vikings, I think their possibilities are wide open. And as far as this season goes, we'll find out, you know, what they would like to do, what in terms of who they decide will be their quarterback for their next game. If they announce, you know, next week that Jaren Hall is going to be the starter, I think then their focus is on the future and seeing, you know, maybe if Jaren Hall's got anything that can help them in the future. If they go with Dobbs, then their focus is on this season and what they can do this season. But this offseason is going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to it because there's going to be a lot to cover. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting next few months in the history of the Vikings. This is like a big kind of, I feel like it's a big turning point because they're kind of going from this Kirk Cousins era. Maybe it ends or maybe it continues. It's near the end. We know that. He's not playing until 45 like Tom Brady. But you know, how close to the end, we'll be able to find that out soon.
Kirk's gonna do the Randy Orton thing. 10 more years. 10 more years, like hobbling off the field. You know what it reminds me of? And this is kind of just how I'll close here. But remember, like when was it? It was a few years ago, and John Cena and AJ Styles were feuding, and like AJ Styles was with the OC, and like their answer to everything would just be beat up John Cena. Like, this is just like the Vikings, you know, their answer to everything is like, well, what about Kirk Cousins? Should Josh Dobbs be bet? Kirk Cousins, though, what about his contract? Like, it always, like, even the numbers on this podcast spiked as we were talking about Kirk Cousins. It's weird. It's crazy. I don't know. It's like a spider sense. Like, somebody's talking about Kirk Cousins.
I'm trying to look who has cap space next year. I'm on over the cap right now. Let's see. The Titans now, they're gonna have Will. Well, I guess if you got Kirk Cousins over Will Levis, the Patriots, they're gonna have a lot of. They have, it looks like they have $91 million in cap space next year. That would be interesting if he went to the Patriots.
Yeah,
I could see them taking a chance on him. The Commanders are gonna have 89 million to spend next year. Does he go back to Washington with a new ownership, and does he go back home to have a second run with the Commanders? That would be hilarious. But yeah, there'll be a lot of people interested in Mr. Kirk Cousins, and I just hope the Vikings don't overpay for him to return. If they want him to come back and they give him a fair offer, that's fine. But don't. You got like we've said so many times. They got to pay Justin Jefferson, Christian Darrisaw. They should pay Danielle Hunter to bring him back. Those other players are going to need money soon. So like, they got a lot to figure out. I'm glad I'm not Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah this offseason.
So we don't have a game this week.
No,
we do write about things other than Kirk Cousins at the Viking Age. What do we got in store here? What should I write about? That production meeting on air. Let's go.
I think we'll try and predict, what's going to happen the rest of the season in terms of like, I'll probably have you do some bold predictions for the rest of the season. We'll try and predict the outcome of every game moving forward. I'm sure we'll do a mock draft. Get into more some playoff scenarios, rooting guides, all that fun stuff. Because it's the Vikings are in the mix. They're in the mix of the playoffs. If the season ended today, they would still be the number 7 seed. They would have to play the Niners on the road, which probably wouldn't end very well based on the last 2 games. Yeah, there'll be plenty of fun stuff, plenty of stuff to read over at the Viking Age. I like when they have time off, even if it's like Thursday game and they have a mini bye, because you just a lot more time for speculation. Sometimes you can even look far ahead to the upcoming off season. We could even do some stuff about Kirk, what teams might be interested in him next off season. A couple of them I just mentioned, but yeah, there'll be plenty of stuff to check out for sure.
And where can people follow you on socials?
You can follow me at Adam Patrick NFL on that Bird app or the X app or whatever you call it. And on Threads. Threads is thriving over there. I just saw Ben Gessling over on Threads. So there's some Vikings personalities coming over there. So that's it's starting to heat up over there, and I think it's a fun little community over there. So on Adam Patrick NFL on Threads and on Twitter/X.
Well, you can follow me at the real Chris Schad. However you slice it, going to start doing some cool stuff on Instagram, actually, with some of our quotes and maybe a little Jackrabbit content. I don't know, but that's all the time we have for the Viking Age podcast today. We do this every Monday in a late week episode right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also on Apple and Spotify the very next day, but however you consume us, don't forget to rate, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we can send the word to the masses. For Adam Patrick, I am Chris Schad. This has been the Viking Age podcast.